Hi, everyone. Welcome to week 4. I can't believe I'm saying that we're in week 4. That seemed to go by way too fast. It always does, but it never ceases to amaze me. So this one will be probably a little bit on the shorter side. This is going to be a touch base to cover a bunch of different things. I just made like a laundry list of things. And then I'm thinking which order I want to do this all in. Okay. So you have the lectures are a little bit different this week. So we have this one, which is technically the first one, even though it'll be shorter. And then I have you watching 2 other videos that are diving into the content that I want to do this week. And I think that they cover it better than I ever could. So I chose 2 videos for you to watch. You may have already seen them. The first one is by Christine's son, Kim, and that's the enchanting music of sign language. And then the second video is a similar take on the same topic, but a little bit of a different perspective. That one's by Amber Galloway. In the video, she's Amber Galloway Gallego, but she has since divorced and she's just Amber Galloway now. Anyway, and hers is about music and ASL. So similar, but they're looking at different things. So Christine's video, and Christine is deaf, so it's presented in ASL as well as it is interpreted and there is captioning. Although I would challenge you to turn that off and just try to follow Christine because it's really, I think it's far more immersive to really get the full experience by just sitting and listening to her, listening as it were. But so she talks about a very unique concept of drawing parallels between American Sign Language and music. And Amber does the same thing, but Amber talks about it from the perspective of Amber, you may have seen some of her videos, and I have incorporated her interpreting videos with music in other classes, so you've probably seen it before. And Amber has, I think, a really interesting take on interpreting music that a lot of interpreters don't do. And she does, it's kind of an amusing example in the video that you'll see that she talks about, like historically, what do interpreters do when music is presented? They interpret the lyrics, and then the rest of the time, they just do this. They nod their head and they sign music. And that's pretty much it. And that's the experience that the consumer gets. Whatever lyrics are said, they will interpret that, but the rest is a head nod and the sign for music, and they wait for the song to finish. Because there's that belief or perception that a deaf consumer can't access the music. It's not for them. And that's sort of the message that she's presenting and saying, well, why is it not for them? That's a hearing belief. That is not the belief. And at the time, she was married to a deaf man. She had a lot of deaf friends. And she felt bad that they didn't have access to music when they were in a space for that. And if you want to dive a little bit deeper, you can see just how deep she does go. She's got tons and tons of music videos that she interprets, and she's done a lot of live performances, including everything from spiritual music to rap music and everything in between she has done. And the way that she sort of encapsulates the language and also the music and the point of the music, everything down to the instrumentation, it's really full-fledged interpretation, and it's very unlike what a lot of people have historically done. I think there's a lot of people that have followed in her footsteps since then and been like, yeah, this is something that if you're there and you're interpreting and someone's presenting music, then you want to make sure that all aspects of what's there is accessible, and that would include interpreting the music, not just the lyrics. And it's just really cool the way she does it, and she explains it seamlessly as to why she does what she does, and it's just a very unique take and challenges a lot of people's beliefs, I think, on that, music is not for you if you're in the deaf community. Christine, on the other hand, isn't talking about whether or not music is necessarily for her. She talks from the beginning and basically says that she believes that it is, and that there's a lot more parallels between ASL and music than ever thought possible. And about 3/4 of the way through, and both of these are less than 15 minutes, so that's why I'm asking you to watch two of them, because even both of them combined are still like only a half an hour, so it should be fine. But about 3/4 of the way through, Christine really talks about an element that I think is really interesting. She talks about and compares the different elements of ASL and also the elements of playing the piano and how they all go together. And I just think that that's a really great analogy and a really great way to think about it in terms of what you're delivering as an interpreter and all the different things that go into that. So, in addition to that, one of the things that I would like to ask for you to weigh in on for this lecture, she talks a little bit about the role of the interpreter, and that she uses the term social currency several times, as well as her voice, whether it be a perceived voice or her, whatever, that her voice is basically borrowed from that of her interpreter, because having a voice, quote unquote, is social currency. And she explains more about that. But I'm curious to see what is your take on that? After listening to both of them, do you think that there is some validity to what she's talking about in terms of having a voice is social currency? And has your opinion on the role of the interpreter changed at all after listening to both of their perspectives? So that's the question I'm posing to you today in the lectures. So the next thing that I want to mention that I have on my list is, I know you're doing a lot of work in Go React. A couple of you have reached out and emailed me and asked questions about that, and I just wanted to clarify a couple of points. I don't know how other classes are done. I only know how sort of I have done it. I generally leave the interpreting assignments private to allow you to be a little discreet and make mistakes, because you're here to practice. So some of you have made comments like, how come I can't see other people's videos? In the beginning of the class, I do that purposefully and intentionally, because I want to give you, again, the privacy to make mistakes and not feel like, oh no, everyone's looking at me, and that you're not in competition with anyone but yourself. That's the other part of it. So unless you're specifically doing a comparison exercise and giving each other feedback, I don't really see any purpose to leaving it open. So that's that. And that's why I do it. So it is intentional. If you feel that it's helpful, then I'm happy to change that, but you're here to practice, and so I don't see any point. So this week, two more things I want to discuss. They're in the same topic, but so this week 4 is generally when I do a mid-course assessment or your midterm. It's pretty short. It's really like a check-in. So it's not, I call it a mid-course assessment just to see kind of how you're doing. If someone's really not doing their work, it gives me sort of a red flag that I can tell by how you did that, like, you're really not keeping up with work. However, it's not very lengthy. There's a few different things, though, that are worth mentioning that will help you as you prepare for the mid-course assessment. It's worth 30 points of your total grade. So it's not a deal breaker. If you do horrendous, then, it's not like, 100 points or whatever. However, 30 points is still 30 points. You don't want to bomb it. There's a few things that you need to know, some basic definitions. If you've been doing your reading in the book, shouldn't be an issue. There's a few questions that are fairly basic, but I do ask you to write in ASL gloss. What does that mean? You should already know, but if you don't, basically, I'm asking you to write a literal, there's no way for me to ask you how you would sign it on a piece of paper without using ASL gloss. If you are not familiar with ASL gloss, there is a handy dandy little thing in, again, you should have already read it, but it is in your book. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I knew she had it in here. Maybe it's in the first book. Is that what I'm thinking of? Bear with me. I feel like I know that I have seen it, but I've also used her other book for the first few times I taught this class, so I'm wondering if it got deleted from this book. I just assumed it was in there. Now I'm going to the index to see if I'm accurate in remembering. I don't want to tell you something that's not true. It's actually not in the index. My apologies. If it is in here and I missed it, let me know. But I just looked really quickly. I'm not going to make you watch me and stare at my book for the next 10 minutes while I try to find it. You can also do a quick Google search if you're not familiar, but basically ASL gloss is basically you're writing in all capital letters for the sign that represents the concept of how you're going to convey a certain thing. And a lot of people, for some reason, I thought that glossing was covered in a lot of the other ASL classes, but in case you missed it, I am looking for actual gloss. What I am not asking, I don't want you to just give me another representation in English. I have that. So in other words, people would put like an English word that is not a sign. So, and I'm like, that's not ASL gloss. ASL gloss is, so if you were to say, I feel cute today, have to take a selfie. So like you would say, cute, me, feel, picture, whatever you're going to sign. But you're going to write down those signs that whatever you're going to use to represent that. So you have to be thinking in your head, how am I going to represent this in ASL? How would I sign it? And then give me the English word that represents the sign and describe how you're going to make it so that I have an understanding on paper of how you're going to sign this. If you have any questions about that, just let me know. But or just Google ASL gloss so that you understand the basic conventions. I know that there's a whole lot of detail in there. I'm not going to detract points for if you miss out on, because ASL gloss can be very detailed. It can also add things like certain classifiers and hand shapes and things like that. I'm not expecting that you do all of that. So if you miss out on that, that's not going to, I'm not going to mark your question wrong for that. After the ASL gloss questions, there's a few objective questions that just have to do with like, what's the difference between this and this? And there's a lot of kind of like languagey terms and other key vocabulary that is in your book that you've probably covered ad nauseum before. So it's just sort of like, do you have the knowledge of where you should be at this point in your program? And then finally, there is a short essay. And by short essay, I don't mean 2 sentences. I do mean essay, but it doesn't have to be pages and pages. You can get your point across in a good, really solid paragraph or 2. However, for anyone who's had me before, I am very, very big on analysis. So it's not just what you say, but if you can make a good argument, if you can give me a good rationale, even if your answer isn't what I would have said or I don't even agree, doesn't matter. If you can make a good argument, I will probably give you points. So don't just say, here's what I think, but tell me why. Make a good argument. Because usually the questions I ask for essays, there is no specific right or wrong answer. It's really just you demonstrating that you're going through the thought process and making a good argument. That's the key. For exams, you will have to use proctor free. You will be proctored during the exam. So before you take it, make sure that you have studied, make sure that you know your stuff. You will not have access, you would be fully proctored. So if you're looking up stuff or whatever, I will know. I don't necessarily have a time limit on there, so you can take your time. However, you cannot retake the exam. So if you go in and then exit, you will not be able to get back in, and that will be a problem. There have been times in the past where students have had an issue with Proctor Free or with some sort of technology. To solve that, and also the university has asked that all faculty do this, so you may have seen it in other classes where you have to use Proctor Free. They've asked all faculty to include a practice test. So there's also a practice test in week 4 in the LMS. Just has one question, it's true, false, but it allows you to go in. I recommend that you do that earlier in the week. So as soon as you see it in there and you've watched this, go in there, do the practice test, make sure that Proctor Free is working properly and that you're able to, everything is up and running the way that it should. That way, if it's not, you have the opportunity, you got time to reach out to tech support and get your issue resolved, or reach out to Proctor Free to get your question answered in time so that you still can take your test by the end of the week. If you have any issues, of course, let me know, but the Proctor Free practice test will be there as well. If you wait till the last minute and you don't take the practice test, I will see that you didn't do it. And then if you tell me you're having problems, I'm going to say, give you every opportunity to problem solve. So do that in advance. Don't wait till the last minute. And for that matter, don't wait till the last minute to take your exam either. You can submit it up until 11:30 p.m. on Sunday night, just like most assignments, but don't put that pressure on yourself. Take it early, give yourself a cushion of time. That way if you do have any issues, you're able to problem solve and, get in there, and just sit down and relax and take the test, and you should be able to do it. Shouldn't take that long once you get in to do it. And let's see. Then after that, only a couple more weeks. There is also, let me see, there is a drill. I apologize for any confusion on that. I moved, as you saw from week 3, and you've already, obviously, since you're in week 4 now, you've already seen my explanation of why I moved everything. But sometimes I have to respond to what I'm seeing, and I might mix things up a little bit, which is why my syllabus always says, check the LMS in case I decide to make any tweaks to our schedule or what we're doing. So the drill that you were supposed to do in week 3 or week 2 got bumped to week 4. So you should see that in Go React. There is no interpreting assignment because you have the exam. So you do have to do the drill. And if you already did it in week 2, your assignment is still there. Not a problem. You don't have to worry about redoing it. But if you haven't done it yet, then do the drill for week 4 and then also do your exam. And that should be pretty much it, besides doing the lectures and, of course, your readings as usual. If you have any questions, let me know. Good luck on the exam, and I will be chatting with you all. Oh, one other thing I did want to mention was that I didn't specifically put on our schedule open office hours. So I just want to encourage everybody again. I don't have a set time because the times that were given to me by the students were kind of all over the place. So I don't really know what's convenient, but I have a lot of availability and I'm pretty much open to meeting with you whenever. So in the signature line in my email, there's a Calendly link. You can throw a time on there anytime you want to meet with me if you just need some face-to-face to chat about things, or you have questions or whatever that are not answerable, or you just want to say hi and we haven't had a chance to meet. I'm totally fine with that. You can use that link to schedule time with me. The only time that's challenging for me is on Tuesdays because I am usually up in Boston because I have one day a week on campus for my job with Harvard. So, but other than that, I'm usually here in my home office. I have a lot of flexibility in my schedule, especially later in the week. The beginning tends to be a little bit busier, but like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is usually like my CU days. I'm focusing on catching up on grading. I'm catching up on preparing stuff for the next week for you guys. So I am definitely available. So I'm sitting at my desk. You can always also shoot me an email and say, hey, are you around today? And I'll be happy to send you a Zoom link. So I just want to leave that open to you, that my office hours are not specific because I want to give you the availability, all of my availability. So if you want to check in with me, have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm around. Just wanted to let you know. All right. Have a great week. Take care. Bye.